beyond embarrassing, in the zone of dangerous. We didn't guard 850,000 tons of ammo. That ammo is now being used against our kids. 10,000 out of 12,000 Humvees aren't armored. I've visited some of those kids with no limbs today because they didn't have the armor on those vehicles. They didn't have the right body armor. I've met parents who've, on the internet, gotten the armor to send their kids. There's no bigger judgment for a President of the United States than how you take a nation to war. And you can't say, because Saddam might have done it 10 years from now, that's a reason. That's an excuse.
Mr. President.
Complains about the fact our troops don't have adequate equipment, yet he voted against the $87 billion supplemental I sent to the Congress and then issued one of the most amazing quotes in political history. I actually did vote for the $87 billion before I voted against it. Saddam Hussein was a risk to our country, ma'am. And he was a risk that, and this is where we just have a difference of opinion. The truth of the matter is, if you listen carefully, Saddam would still be in power if he were the President of the United States, and the world would be a lot better off.
And Senator Kerry, 30 seconds.
Not necessarily be in power, but here's what I'll say about the $87 billion. I made a mistake in the way I talk about it. He made a mistake in invading Iraq, which is a worse decision. Now, I voted the way I voted because I saw that he had the policy wrong, and I wanted accountability. I didn't want to give a slush fund to Halliburton. I also thought the wealthiest people in America ought to pay for it, ladies and gentlemen. He wants your kids to pay for it. I wanted us to pay for it since we're at war. I don't think that's a bad decision.
That's going to conclude the questioning. We're going to go now to closing statements, 2 minutes from each candidate, and the first closing statement goes to Senator Kerry. I believe that was the agreement.
Go ahead. Actually, you want to go first? Either way.
Thank you. Charlie, thank you, and thank you all. Thank you, all of you, for taking part. Thanks for your questions tonight, very, very much. Obviously, the President and I both have very strong convictions. I respect him for that. But we have a very different view about how to make America stronger and safer. I will never cede the authority of our country or our security to any other nation. I'll never give a veto over American security to any other entity, not a nation, not a country, not an institution. But I know, as I think you do, that our country is strongest when we lead the world, when we lead strong alliances. And that's the way Eisenhower and Reagan and Kennedy and others did it. We are not doing that today. We need to. I have a plan that will help us go out and kill and find the terrorists, and I will not stop in our effort to hunt down and kill the terrorists. But I also have a better plan how we're going to deal with Iraq, training the Iraqi forces more rapidly, getting our allies back to the table with a fresh start, with new credibility, with a president whose judgment the rest of the world trusts. In addition to that, I believe we have a crisis here at home, a crisis of the middle class that is increasingly squeezed. Healthcare costs going up. I have a plan to provide health care to all Americans. I have a plan to provide for our schools so we keep the standards, but we help our teachers teach and elevate our schools by funding No Child Left Behind. I have a plan to protect the environment so that we leave this place in better shape to our children than we were handed it by our parents. That's the test. I believe America's best days are ahead of us. I'm an optimist, but we have to make the right choices to be fiscally responsible and to create the new jobs of the future. We can do this, and I ask you for the privilege of leading our nation to be stronger at home and respected again in the world. Thank you.
Senator, and a closing statement from President Bush.
Charlie, thanks. Thank you all very much. It's been enjoyable. The great contest for the presidency is about the future. Who can lead? Who can get things done? We've been through a lot together as a country. Been through a recession, corporate scandals, war. And yet think about where we are. Had 1.9 million new jobs over the past 13 months. The farm income in America is high. Small businesses are flourishing. Home ownership rate is at an all-time high in America. We're on the move. Tonight I had a chance to discuss with you what to do to keep this economy going. Keep the taxes low. Don't increase the scope of the federal government. Keep regulations down. legal reform, a health care policy that does not empower the federal government but empowers individuals, and an energy plan that'll help us become less dependent on foreign sources of energy. And abroad, we're at war, and it requires a president who is steadfast and strong and determined. I vowed to the American people after that fateful day of September the 11th that we would not rest nor tire until we're safe. The 9/11 Commission put out a report that said America is safer, but not yet safe. There's more work to be done. We'll stay on the hunt on al-Qaeda. We'll deny sanctuary to these terrorists. We'll make sure they do not end up with weapons of mass destruction. It's the great nexus, the great threat to our country, is that these haters end up with weapons of mass destruction. But our long-term security depends on our deep faith in liberty. And we'll continue to promote freedom around the world. Freedom is on the march. Tomorrow, Afghanistan will be voting for a president. In Iraqi, we'll be having free elections. And a free society will make this world more peaceful. God bless.
Mr. President, Senator Kerry. That concludes tonight's debate. I want to give you a reminder that the third and final debate on issues of domestic policy will be held next Wednesday, October 13th at Arizona State University in Tempe, Arizona, hosted by Bob Schieffer of CBS News. I want to thank President Bush and Senator Kerry for tonight. I want to thank these citizens of the St. Louis area who asked the questions, who gave so willingly of their time, and who took their responsibility very seriously. Thank you also to everyone at Washington. I want to thank everyone at Washington University in St. Louis for being such gracious hosts. I'm Charles Gibson from ABC News from St. Louis. Good night.